Lies.
I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to tonight's Board of Directors meeting. This is the 15th meeting of the year of the Hot Springs Board of Directors, and we'll start the meeting off with an invocation by Captain Bradley Hargis and the Pledge of Allegiance by Randy Foley.
Let us pray. God, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for this space that we can pray to you today freely. We just thank you for our leaders that are here. We just ask that you would inspire and encourage them this day. And we just ask that whatever we decide would be your kingdom business. So we just are thankful to live in this free country, and we're thankful that you're our God. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Would you join me in a pledge?
I
pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Davidson.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Williams. Garcia.
Here.
Foley.
Here.
McCabe.
Here. This time we'll consider approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or items from the consent agenda you'd like to have moved to new business? Any additions or deletions to the agenda or items to be moved from consent to new business? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve as presented.
So moved. So moved.
Got a motion by Director Davidson, seconded by Director Garcia. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Now we'll consider approval of the minutes of the regularly held meeting of August 7th, 2018. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Director Clark, seconded by Director Jones. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. Director Garcia, you have a couple special guests.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest tonight, Lynn Blankenship, who's the Executive Director at the Cooperative Christian Ministries and Clinic, and Dr. Porter, who is the Chairman of the Board for the organization. And would you both come forward? And thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us as your guest. We really appreciate the opportunity. For those of you who don't know, Cooperative Christian Ministries and Clinic is now more of a social services agency, and we are seeing people in our community who need help. And unfortunately, there is more need than there is help in some cases. So we're hoping to be able to work with the city on the proposal that you have on your agenda tonight.
Why don't you explain a little bit about that? I know we got a report here shortly, but you're going to leave all the audience hanging.
That was my plan.
Oh, okay. I goofed it again.
Well, the program is actually Help to Others, which is an opportunity for the citizens of Hot Springs who utilize municipal water to be able to give back and to donate to a fund to help households that may be in need, who are having a tough time, or maybe just to bridge that gap. It will create a fund that the city is going to allow CCMC to interview and assess individual candidates to determine their qualification for help with their water bill.
Very good. Dr. Porter, you like to add?
Well, I have little to add other than the fact that we're excited about this joint venture. The type of services that we own, that we provide, dovetail really well with this. Another thing that it's going to help us do, we have calculated that 26% of our resources go to helping people with water problems. So if we can make this thing work over the next year with partnering with the city, I think it'll be a win-win for the city, it'll be a win-win for us, and it will free up our funds to be diverted into other things that we do for the underserved in our community. So we're really excited about this.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
each
much.
of you for all you do for the community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have the interim city manager's report. Mr. Burrows.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Last Monday and Tuesday, the City of Hot Springs Planning and Development staff held 4 open house meetings for newly annexed residents of Area A and Area B to answer questions related to zoning for their addresses. The meetings were very well attended and informative. We've received a lot of positive feedback from those who attended, and I'd like to just thank the staff and the residents for their participation at that open house. I'd also like to provide an update on the Majestic site. We received confirmation of the remediation work plan from ADEQ. The work is scheduled to begin Tuesday, a week from today. We anticipate the actual work taking about 2 days. There will be a period of approximately 2 weeks for additional testing of the soil samples prior to disposal at a Class 1 landfill. As we complete that work, we'll be under the guidance of Terracon, one of our environmental consultants that does a lot of work with cities and issues like this. And again, once that is complete, we'll engage KSU and the University of Arkansas to come in and begin that public input process. So this has been a long time coming. As you know, sometimes the wheels move slow as you're dealing with other agencies and trying to accomplish the tasks that need to be done at the Majestic site for us to move forward. So we're very excited that next week we'll be able to accomplish that portion of the project.
Bill, what will the citizens actually see as far as the remediation? Or is it of a small section of the property? Or?
It is a very small section. It was in the yellow portion of the Majestic site, if you can recall, the far right building. There is a bunker that has actually been remediated in the past, or not remediated, but filled in, and all the items taken out of there. We had no soil samples come back with any type of hazardous material in that particular fuel bunker. However, while we're there with the equipment, we are going to go ahead and remove that from the site. There's about 9 cubic feet of dirt in the area of the old laundry, which was a little bit further up on the hill. So you'll see some equipment up there, and basically we're going to have one track hoe, one probably container to collect that particular debris. We should get it, in that one day, but a couple of days, weather permitting, we'll have that completed. So you won't see a massive amount of equipment. It's a very small site, a very small section that came back that needed to be remediated. But again, while we're there, we're going to go ahead and take care of that bunker and dispose of it properly as well. The Hot Springs Compost, 318 Davidson Drive. We will waive charges for wood chips, mulch, compost, loading services during the month of September. There are different times of the year where we're just overwhelmed with the amount of debris that comes in, and we have a lot of great compost and wood chips and mulch that's available free of charge for the month of September. We'll do that loading for you at no additional fees. Loading hours from 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. For more information, you can call 262-3572. All city offices except public safety and the airport will be closed on Monday, September 3rd in observance of Labor Day. Solid waste, residential collections, CAP service, Earth Angel recycling will occur 1 day later than their normal schedule on that particular week. Monday's collection on Tuesday, Tuesday on Wednesday, and so forth. Commercial collection, however, and roll-off downtown routes, they will take place as scheduled on that Monday. Intercity transit, bus, and paratransit services will be suspended, and the city's compost facility will be closed on that Monday. Animal Services is offering half-price adoptions until August 31st. Animal Services hours are Monday through Friday, noon to 5, and now Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The shelter is located at 319 Davidson Drive off Shady Grove. So you can go out, get some compost, go next door, pick up a puppy, make everybody in the family happy.
It's kind of a cycle.
That's right. That's right. Last thing I have, Mayor, is something that I'm very proud of. Received a letter from Juan Ibarra, and he, in his email, he also had a copy of a letter from Jerry Saunders, who's the branch chief of the Water Enforcement Branch for the United States Environmental Protection Agency, Region 6, and it's in regards to their 2018 EPA Regional 6 National NPDES Inspector Environmental Officer Workshop. Big name. Basically, these are the regulators. They had about 200 inspectors at this particular training. And the comments I received were the presentation you provided, and this was to Monty Ledbetter. The presentation you provided on CMOM asset management was an essential factor in making this training event an overwhelming success, for which we are all grateful. As you know, we had a large attendance of about 200 inspectors and enforcement personnel from EPA regional offices throughout the United States, tribes, and local programs. The feedback that we received on the subject and quality of your presentation was extremely positive. Following that remark, Mr. Ibarra stated, I also have to tell you that the presentation that Monty and his partners presented on the City of Hot Springs CMOM program was very impressive. It was one of my favorite presentations of the entire workshop, and it represented the City of Hot Springs in an incredible light. I was both thrilled and impressed with what your city has accomplished with its CMOM program. Congratulations to you all. So very proud of the work that we've done in the Utilities Department in managing our CMOM program, which is part of our, it really came about through our CAO that we've just completed all of the work we've done over the past 10 years. Very proud of the staff for their presentation that they were able to present to that particular training. So kudos to Monty Ledbetter and his staff and this board for allowing us the funds that we needed to correct the issues that we had in our wastewater system. You know, you don't really think about something like that, but it is a huge endeavor, and you know, $70 million over 10 years, and we have accomplished what we needed to through that consent administrative order. We've requested relief and release, so hopefully in the very near future we will receive that. So thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you very much, Bill. Fine report. Now we have Board of Directors announcements of upcoming events or upcoming news items. Anybody have a upcoming event? Director Foley.
I would like to remind, thank you, Mayor. I would like to remind the community that beginning September 4th, the early voting starts for a special election for the Mid-America Science Museum. This election is for the purpose of having the A&P Commissioner visit Hot Springs redirect $2 million toward a bond issue that will permit them to build an exhibit hall for these traveling exhibits. I don't know if you remember when the body exhibit came to town. It drew a great deal of interest. And since the museum is affiliated with the Smithsonian, the ability to get outstanding exhibits is even better. So just a reminder, get out and vote September 4th. The voting will take place from September 4th, and the final election day is September 11th.
Yeah, the voting window is very narrow.
Yes.
It's only a week, and those who may be out of town may need to look at an absentee ballot, because if you take a week vacation, it'll be over before you get back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Garcia.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would like to invite everyone to a public community meeting on September the 6th at the Center at Forest Lakes at 4:30 p.m., located at 305 Forest Lakes Boulevard. Staff from the neighborhood services will be there for a presentation, and then attendees will have an opportunity to ask questions as well. Also, on October 15th, and I don't know if everyone has read their emails, but we have invited all of the candidates for a city candidate forum on October the 15th, gathering at 4:30, with the forum to begin at 5 p.m., also at the center at 305 Forest Lakes Boulevard, and Dick Antoine is moderating the event.
Very good, thank you. Any other upcoming events? Just a short recap, we had in the news recently some companies that are expanding their operations, and those are upcoming new jobs for our community. Triumph Industries announced recently 40 new jobs, and what I really like about their announcement is that they recognize the need to train individuals and in order to at times create their own workforce. So if you have a mechanical ability, if you can work with your hands and I guess measure and be precise, they'll take you the rest of the way and train you in what you need to know to be successful in their business. And then yesterday, Express Boats and Veranda Luxury Pontoons had a major announcement at Jones Mill where they will be acquiring General Cable plant that's been closed now for a couple years, and they're going to start building their Veranda Luxury pontoon there, and 80 to 100 additional jobs when they get rolling, and they'll be able to double their annual output. So those are good things. And as I indicated yesterday during that press conference, that plan is about as equal distance from Hot Springs to the plant and Melbourne to the plant. It's about a 10-minute drive from the expressway at Melbourne to the plant, and if you went to downtown Melbourne and drove, it'd be about a 10-minute drive. So it's great for both communities. That's all I have. We'll go ahead and proceed with the consent agenda. These items are of routine nature that do not require discussion, and therefore I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So move.
A motion by Director Garcia, seconded by
Second.
Director Clark. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is approved. We have 5 action items under new business, 4 resolutions and 1 ordinance. We'll start with resolution number R18117 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R18117, a resolution awarding a bid to Classic Protective Coating, Inc. for the Hollywood Elevated Water Tower repairs and painting contract as designed by Christ Engineers, Inc. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion.
Very good. Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Jones, seconded by Director Foley. And our staff member today is Utility Project Director Todd Pillar. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. This resolution is to award the bid to Classic Protective Coatings. They were their low responsive bidder out of 3 bidders for our Hollywood Elevated Water Tank repairs and painting contract. And their bid was in the amount of $646,950. As I mentioned, there were 3 bidders, and Classic Protective Coatings is from out of state. They're from Menominee, Wisconsin. The other 2 bidders were from Oklahoma and Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota. The contract started out as just a painting of the exterior of the tank, and after our consulting engineers got involved and the Arkansas Health Department, it blossomed. And we had to do many different things to get the it was started in 1964, was completed in 1965, the elevated tank. And we had to do many more improvements than what we thought originally, just to paint the exterior. And we negotiated with the low contractor, Classic Protective Coatings, mainly because of the safety with the energy power lines that are right there, because our site was very, very small, and power lines are right there, and they were worried about their shroud getting into the power lines while they're painting. And I talked to energy folks, and we had that problem corrected, and they were able to lower their price. This funds will come out of, it'd be your last pennies you spend of the 2015 water bond money. Everything thus forward will be out of the 2018 board-approved 2018 funds. The exterior of the painting, we will have hot springs on each side, 180 degrees apart, one facing Oak Lawn and one facing National Park Hospital, the corner of Hollywood and Malvern. And with that, I'll answer any questions or any clarifications I can give you.
Any questions?
Will the tank need to be offline during the renovation work?
4 months.
4 months.
Basically, we waited until after Labor Day. It'll start Labor Day. It'll be back online January 1st. 4 months.
There's also improvements for the
Compromise
mixer in
in
there, isn't there?
Firefighting
No.
capabilities?
No, sir. No, that's why we chose this time of year. Water, after Labor Day, the water demand goes back down in the lakeside, and washtub plants will be able to keep up.
Director Foley, there is additional improvements for this particular tank. We'll be adding a mixer. And basically that lets us take water that's in the upper portion of the tank and get it down below so we can move that through the system. Typically, if you don't have that, it's hard to get that water in the upper portions of the bowl to circulate and be able to move that without it aging. So this particular mixer will help with our trihalomethane issues that we've had in the very extreme eastern and southern portions of our system. So there are
point, Bill.
additional improvements.
The water
I forgot
that's,
that. It's very good.
Todd, the water that's in the tank when you start, or prior to you starting this project, is it used then?
Oh, yeah, we'll drain the tank into the system.
Very good. Any further questions?
I think we're going to put a picture of what it may look like when it's done. I think she's trying to get that.
Yeah, I asked Terry to do that.
There it is.
That's not our exact tank, but it's what our tank looks like. It looks like a mushroom or an egg. It's not like our new 3 million tank we're putting down behind Lowe's. It's got a big flat wall to it. It's got a big curved surface. So I did run that by Steve Aronson, so he's aware of it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Directors, we had no one from the public that had signed up to speak, so any discussion amongst directors? Director Garcia.
Not a question, I just wanted to comment that the article that was in the newspaper and with the picture and telling about this was very good and informative, and it keeps our public informed that read the newspaper about it, and our public information department has put out information about these projects, and it's very good and informative, and thank everybody involved. I've gotten positive feedback about it.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. This time we'll call the roll.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. At this time, we'll entertain that resolution is adopted. This time, we'll consider resolution number R18118 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R18118, a resolution awarding a bid to Coakley Company, Inc. for the 2018 water line improvement contract as designated by Hanson and McLaughlin, LLC. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Very good. Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Clark, seconded by
Second.
Director Garcia. And this time, we have Mr. Pillarback, Utility Project Manager. Please
Thank you, Mayor.
proceed.
Yes. This is the resolution to award the bid to Coakley that was taken on July 30th. Again, Coakley was the low responsible bidder. We had, again, 3 bidders. And this is for our ongoing water line upgrades and improvements we do every year. This is just one of the contracts we're doing this year. And the Coakley contract will be $379,767. And these 2 streets are very long. There's just two streets, but in this contract, but one is Belding that basically goes from Shady Grove all the way over to Lincoln, up Lincoln to Drexel. And then the other street starts at Malvern and goes up Nichols Street to Woodridge all the way over to Torelli. Two very long old mains that were upgraded to 6-inch, and including fire protection in those on those mains. And this will, of course, be paid out of the 2018 water distribution utility budget. So that's
Very
all I
good.
have.
Any questions, Mr. Pillar, from directors? No questions? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And we had no one from the
No, sir.
audience sign up. So any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. This time we'll consider resolution resolution R-18-119, and ask city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-18-119, a resolution approving an agreement with Cooperative Christian Ministries and Clinic for the administration of the H2O Hot Springs Program for utility bill assistance to residential customers. That concludes your reading. May, if you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion.
Motion to adopt.
So move.
Director Jones, seconded by Director Foley, and giving the staff report today is Director of Customer Services, Mr. Randy Outler. And they stole your thunder a little while ago, so I kind of apologize for that, but I always hate having guests come up and kind of leave out the good stuff.
That's fine. Good evening, Board and Mr. Mayor. This resolution represents the agreement between the City of Hot Springs and the Cooperative Christian Ministries and Clinic, as we refer to them as CCMC, and the administration of the H2O Hot Springs program. As was mentioned a few minutes ago, the acronym H2O stands for help to others. And that's really the thrust of the whole program is help to others. A little bit about the program. The City of Hot Springs will receive and maintain all funds that's received for the program, and Cooperative Christian Ministries and Clinic will be the entity that actually determines the distribution to the eligible recipients of those funds as funds are available. So we're really excited about it. We think it's going to be a really good thing for Hot Springs. We're really excited. A little bit more about the H2O Hot Springs program. As I said, the program funds will be from donations, and they can be mailed in. They can be delivered to the Utility Billing Services Department at the Bill Edwards Financial Center, or you can also opt as to place this donation on your monthly utility bill. There'll be a place on the utility bill, a little box with some verbiage on there. If you check that box and enclose extra to your utility bill's payment, then that will be applied to the H2O Hot Springs program. It's a very simple application process. As they mentioned a few minutes ago, it's a visit to their office and filling out an assessment form and visit with them. We feel like it's going to be a very simple process. One assistance payment per calendar year per household. We're limiting that to that due to the funds being somewhat limited. We're going to not have any disbursements until the fund balances reaches $1,000. That'll allow us to get the fund built and to start that process of interviewing at CCMC. The maximum amount that a resident could receive would be up to 75% of the amount that would be required to either keep their water services active or to restore it. And of course, the customer would be responsible for the balance of that payment, whatever that would be. Any questions or?
I have a couple of questions. First of all, I think it's a great program and one that I think will aid you and your staff in giving some guidance and direction to those who find themselves in, kind of behind the eight ball. I guess the question I have is, and Lynn might, and Dr. Porter may be able to help in this, how fast would this process take? I mean, how long would it take? If somebody's having a problem, is it a week-long process, a 2-day process? Their bill's due and they finally, get some guidance from you but in 2 days their water's going to be cut off?
we're expecting there to be a weekly report sent to our office at Utility Billing Services of the applicants that would be approved and the funds are available. Then we would make those payments. Obviously, if it's critical where they're actually scheduled to have their payment or their water cut off tomorrow, then obviously we can work around that. We just need that information from CCMC marked as urgent, and then we can do that.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Director
Randy,
Fowley?
excuse me, is this going to be promoted? Is this publicly going to be promoted? So
Yes, sir.
The community is aware of it?
We've actually got some information that pending board approval tonight that we would be putting on the Utility Billing Services website, and Mr. Burrow and us have discussed other means of communication to the
Okay,
public
great.
to let
Thank you.
everyone know about it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you. Any further discussion amongst directors? Director Garcia?
I would just like to encourage all board members to vote in favor of this resolution. We have processes in place for our electric bills with Entergy for donations and for our gas bills with CenterPoint, and the people that find themselves in need don't have that much resource for the water utilities. And I think this is a way, without the city spending money, in showing that we care about all people, and this partnership will be good, win-win for everyone.
Very good. Thank you. We had no one from the community sign up to speak. Any other questions from directors?
Mayor, I know that the board is aware of this, but just for the benefit of the public, all of the funds will be held by the City of Hot Springs in a segregated account. The funds will not be handled through the charitable organization, merely the assessing and interviews and recommendations for the payment will come from them. The funds will stay in-house.
Very good.
She may not want to say anything else.
Yes, you may not want. Blankenship.
Question on
Yes.
that.
We did have a speaker, Ms. Blankenship. Did you want to come forward?
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I would like to add to this is CCMC has been doing this, working with under-resourced individuals for more than 20 years now. We've been on the social services side, the case management side for 4 years. We actually have our lead case manager, who is a former major in the Salvation Army, so we definitely have qualified individuals that will be doing the assessment. But more than anything else, this really falls in line with our ultimate mission, which is the Bridges Out of Poverty. What we do when we have individuals who present at our door with a need, we see that as an opportunity. And we try to assist that individual to find a way to self-sufficiency. We offer programs to go along with that. So this is a way for us not only to help that individual, but to help them long-term, and then that, in effect, will affect our community too. That is really all I have. Any questions?
I'd just like to compliment you, the board of directors, and the entire organization. You know, prior to the Affordable Care Act, you were seeing, 1,400 people a month. And the Affordable Care Act dropped you down to about 100, which we ought to say that was a good thing because people had insurance. But rather than you closing your doors, you reinvented yourself and found other ways in which you could make a significant contribution to the community. That Bridges Out of Poverty program is so novel, and then you're stepping up with this program. You just do wonderful work for our community, so thank you.
Well, thank you for that. And we couldn't do it without the community support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Clark.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Mayor, may I
Resolution's
have a
adopted.
point of personal privilege for just a minute and ask Randy to come back to the podium?
Please.
I have something I wanted to give him. And I've been working on this since last year, and I wanted to make the first contribution to the program.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Director Garcia. This time, we'll consider Resolution R-18-120 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-18-120, a resolution authorizing a lease agreement with GRGCB LLC for certain real property for certain city property located at 349 Malvern Avenue. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Very good. Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Jones, seconded by
Second.
Director Davidson. And Mr. Spitzer, are you giving the staff report?
I will, sir.
Thank you.
I'll tee this one up. This particular item comes to the board as a request for a ground lease for city-owned property. This is the property that was the former Hot Springs Utility Building. It was located at 349 Malvern Avenue. The property itself, of course, everyone's fairly well acquainted where it's at. It's Malvern and Church Street. It's immediately adjacent to the Hotel Hot Springs and backs up to the Hot Springs A&P Commission's staff parking lot. The property itself is approximately half an acre, and it is Zone C1. The property, as I said, previously did have the Hot Springs Municipal Utilities Building on the grounds. Whenever the City of Hot Springs entered into the original lease agreement with GRGCB, which we'll call Hotel Hot Springs, part of the lease agreement was to demo that utility building, in which that was done in August of 2015. Or I'm sorry, that was actually accomplished in November of 2015. The original lease agreement was entered into in August of 2014. And really the reason that this has come before the board, our existing tenant has requested an extension of the construction term that was listed in that original lease agreement. That term has expired. The lease agreement was originally entered into to construct hotel improvements. I believe they were looking to construct an additional tower, hotel and spa, and really that was to be accomplished on or before February of 2017. So obviously that date has came and went, and the city has been keeping the tenant on a month-to-month lease for the property. And what the tenant has requested is that extension, and what the lease agreement that the board currently has being proposed would extend that construction period by approximately 36 months, which would be the improvements to be constructed by August of 2021. And that the lease agreement also includes an increase in the grounds rent. Currently it stands at $2,000 per month. That would increase to $2,500 per month. There are no extensions in the 50-year term that was originally part of the lease agreement, so that stays the same. And really the lease agreement itself current stays, very, very much the same as it was back in 2014 whenever the hotel, we entered into that particular agreement. Of course, there are a couple of items of interest for the board and probably the public as well. There are some outstanding indebtedness to the city. The lease agreement itself, for the ground lease, the July and August payments of $2,000 per month have not been made as of today. So those are both considered delinquent payments. And there were some additional things that were listed in your packet. That was there was a utility account, of course, that has been made current, but I think everyone is aware of some of the existing A&P tax indebtedness that exists between the Hotel Hot Springs and the A&P Commission. But this was not made part of your packet, but it was sent to you. Mr. Jeff Simmons with the Hotel Hot Springs had made a packet of information. It contains some of the information I believe the board was looking for. I think you also had some additional questions of the agreement and the direction of the hotel itself. So we did ask Mr. Simmons to attend the meeting this evening. He obviously is here to answer any questions you might have.
Very good. Mr. Simmons,
Yes, sir.
did you have any prepared remarks?
Not really, just to answer questions. There were a few questions, general questions, whenever we presented at the agenda meeting, and that's why we put that packet together. We have already reached an agreement with Wyndham Hotels to be a flagship. This property improvement and spa are a condition of that flagship being added. There was also a question concerning the financing there. I am precluded from discussing who the lender is. I didn't realize at the time that we have an agreement not to disclose that, but I do believe the city attorney was able to speak with our attorney and may have got some satisfaction concerning the closing for that financing. Any other questions y'all may have?
I have a question.
Foley?
I have a question for council. Is this agreement going to be essentially a new agreement?
It would be a new lease agreement, yes, sir.
Don't we have an ordinance that prohibits us from entering into an agreement if there's outstanding debt to the city or any of its entities?
Yes, sir. Ordinance number 5493 states in part, no person, firm, or corporation who is in any way indebted to the City of Hot Springs or any of its political subdivision shall be issued any permit or license by any agency, department, or division of the city, nor shall such person, firm, or corporation be allowed to establish a new or reconnect a discontinued municipal utility service as the purposes of this ordinance. Let's see, I thought there was another.
I mean, I'm definitely interested in seeing this go forward, but given that we're precluded from doing that, I'd like to make a motion to table this for 30 days.
Second.
That will give the client opportunity to clear up all the obligations, and we can do this right.
We have a motion by Director Foley to table, seconded by Director Garcia. Motion. Pardon?
So can we have some discussion on the motion to table? We'll need a term or some event to trigger this coming back to the floor. What is it exactly that we want from the tenant?
In my mind, I think all outstanding debts have to be paid, whatever the ground lease outstanding is, as well as the tax collected for the A&P Commission and not remitted to the A&P Commission.
Okay.
That has to be satisfied, also current, not a payment plan, but current.
Mr. Simmons, the lease
What about
agreement.
property taxes?
Any property tax, we don't collect property. If you want the county's property taxes collected as made a condition to that, that could be an issue as well. Exhibit C to the 2014 lease and the proposed lease for 2018 require there to be an attachment as to what improvements are going to be constructed. Are you aware, or do you know anyone who is aware of
We have
plans for the
We have working
improvements?
drawings that we could present
Okay.
at the next meeting, if you like.
And it's your representation to the board that the financing package that you're waiting for in Denver is contingent upon this lease being entered into?
It is, as well as the Wyndham flagship agreement is a necessity. We have a longer range plan for an additional 100 units that's outside of its initial improvement.
Okay.
Director Garcia?
In the property taxes, there is a city millage that has any arrears and what's due.
The arrearage would play in, yes.
And
tax
that's why I
rolls off
brought
this
up
year.
the property taxes,
Sure.
because
Good point.
it's coming due again, and there was last year and this year, city millage included in
You're-
that. So
you're ex-
that is a city debt.
You're exactly right.
And I would like to know what other recommendations or your view of other information that might be needed.
Well, one of the things that the board might consider prior to this coming back to the floor, if it is true, and I did reach out to his attorney, I did not get satisfaction of my questions, but I was provided an assurance that the loan documents were in place and that they were being sent to him for his review. That doesn't mean that it's been approved. It doesn't mean it's been funded. If it is true that their funding will be contingent upon the execution of this lease, I would suggest that in the days to come, prior to this coming back to the board for its consideration on the lease, that I communicate with his attorney to see whether or not a letter of intent would be sufficient to satisfy the lender, that if the lending goes through pursuant to our letter of intent, then we will fulfill the promises that we make in the letter of intent, but not to execute a lease agreement giving, carte blanche until we know that the funding is in place.
I'd like to amend my motion to what you just said.
Ditto.
Okay, so is there a second? Well, can I
Can you
phrase
would you
your
rephrase
motion
it?
for you?
Yes, please.
So the motion to table would be for sufficient amount of time for council to communicate with applicant's counsel to secure a letter of intent in order to procure the funding necessary to build the improvements, to make satisfaction of all outstanding debts to the city of Hot Springs, including its hospitality tax, real estate ad valorem tax, and then move forward.
Sales tax?
Yes.
Be all tax or 1%.
All
or-
tax.
Now, the sales tax is collected by the state, so that's being remitted to the city. We don't have a way of knowing whether that's taking place or
I
not.
put a 30-day time period on that, but I'm willing to move that up if they can demonstrate that they have fulfilled those requirements, so we could address this at the next board meeting.
That's fine. We can give them 90 days to do it. I mean, this financing, bank financing, it's not going to happen. Unless they're ready to sign now, getting it done in 30 days from today is going to be a major effort. So, I mean, we can give them 90 days and we can revisit it. If you get it, Mr. Simmons, in advance of that,
Yeah, I
we
think
can put you on the next agenda.
our intent would be to have it ready for the next agenda meeting, but I can't appreciate what you're saying about bank
The next agenda
financing.
meeting is like next week, Tuesday.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Is that the next week or the following Tuesday?
Well, the agenda meeting is next Tuesday.
Tuesday,
The
okay.
next board meeting is the first Tuesday in
I think
September.
I think it would actually be for the following,
Yeah, so
Period.
you're like the second board meeting in September.
yes, sir.
So it'd be close to your 30-day mark or so.
28th or so.
Yeah.
What is that date?
The second meeting in September is the 18th.
It's early. Is it?
I heard his statement differently. I thought he was saying at the next board meeting in 2 weeks, we're meeting for an agenda meeting, and then the second meeting is for a board meeting, where we
Essentially
consider
have to be ready by the agenda meeting, though.
Right, we have to
Oh, I see.
generally
Okay.
have it.
Okay, good
The
point.
agenda
That's
meeting's
right.
next Tuesday.
Yeah.
for
Okay,
the
so
first
it
one,
would still be a month.
We're really looking on the 18th is the actual board meeting date, with the 11th being the agenda meeting.
That's correct.
You think that
I think
provides sufficient
that's
time?
reasonable, yes, sir.
If not, you've got an agenda meeting on September 25th.
Yeah. So as far as the timetable within the motion to table,
28th? Would that be the 28th?
25th will be the next,
25th.
would be the second, the final agenda meeting in September will be the 25th.
The agenda meeting.
yeah, but he wanted to be on the second meeting in September, which
So
is
that'll
the
be, that'll
18th,
be the 18th.
which is early because of the way everything has fallen. So it has to be on the agenda meeting on the 11th. So you really have to have everything done so we can have it on the agenda at the 11th.
20 days.
So,
And assuming you haven't accomplished all of that, the board at that point could consider the letter of intent possibility, if that helps to facilitate the funding. We won't be giving up anything in doing such. It just would set forth what our intentions are if funding is available.
I'm fine with that.
You restate what the motion is? I think we got about three motions in one here.
Motion is tabled until the board meeting on September the 18th,
Correct.
Yeah,
at which time the board can consider the lease if they have complied with what you want. If not, you can direct me to issue a letter of intent at that time.
very good. Very well stated. Is that your motion, Mr. Foley? Did I hear that
Absolutely
right?
was. I thought you heard that the first time.
That was a well-stated motion. You should have been a lawyer. We have a second on that motion?
Second.
Director Jones, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion to table is approved. This time, we'll consider our last item of business, which is ordinance 01831. Entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Motion by Director Clark, seconded by
Second.
Director Davidson. All in favor of the motion to suspend the rules and read by title signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Council, please read ordinance by title.
Ordinance 01831, an ordinance amending certain sections of the Hot Springs Code, Title 15, Chapter 10, Article 6, to establish requirements for pavement cuts and utility work in the rights-of-way, declaring an emergency, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Very good. Motion to adopt.
So
Director
moved.
Foley, seconded by
Second.
Director Garcia. And City Engineer, Mr. Gary Carnahan.
Thank you, Mayor and Directors. This is a request of the board to approve a revision, an update of our street repair and work in the right-of-way ordinance. We have so much new work going on in the city, new construction and building, and repairing old mains and utilities in the city, that that last year we had to issue 478, almost 500 street cut repair permits and inspect those and so on. And what we have found is that we need to have better standards, clearer standards, easier to understand, and we need more enforcement teeth in our codes to be able to make sure that they're inspected and installed properly. And that includes street repair plan reviews, so that the repair plan is determined on the front end of the project instead of as we go. Updated fees to help pay for the additional inspection that we have to do. A 2-year bond so that if something doesn't settle the first year, but the second year, we still have recourse to make sure that it's taken care of properly. Updated specifications and details. Illustrations to make those repairs clearer about what's expected. A wider concrete T-cap on the trench repair, compaction test, and requiring traffic control plans, because in addition to just the street repair, traffic control during those times being out in the street, and sometimes when we cut the street, if we use a concrete T-cap, it may take 3 or 4 days to complete the repair because we have to let the concrete cure, put plates over the opening. It's very dangerous. So we've tried to upgrade all those things in these new specifications and ordinance. It's been reviewed by quite a wide number of people and staff people in the city, public works, transportation, utilities, et cetera. And we had a session to show some of this to you all a while back. So tonight we'd just like to ask to go ahead and put this in place, have it approved, so we can start implementing the new standards.
Any questions of Mr. Carnahan? Gary, I'd like you to briefly explain, if that's possible, from the public standpoint, what they're going to see and what we're trying to achieve with this. 'Cause I know in the past, anytime we get a street cut, that's the beginning of a pothole with the first winter freeze. And so how are we going to mitigate that with this program?
Okay, so, well, first of all, we're going to discourage street cuts. And by requiring more, for instance, services across the streets, that a boring is required rather than cutting a patch across the street. So have more requirements for boring instead of cutting the street. Secondly, we'll have stricter standards for using Class 7 base rock to put in the trench rather than some of the other more local materials that we found don't stand up as well, and that's compacted properly. And if it's a line down the street, we'll require compaction tests frequently. Our inspectors will be there. Sometimes it takes 4 trips to any particular job to go through all the phases of the repair process. So there'll be more inspection time spent. As I said before, though, getting a permit will take a little longer because we'll want to see the plan for the repair before we start, and the traffic control plan. So we already have one project right now. We're working with CenterPoint Energy on a long project down Lakeshore Drive. And so we're working through that with them. And Todd, you just approved 2 long water projects with them, and we worked with the engineer during the design process to make sure that those repairs, in this case, a full lane width on some of those streets or a half lane width all the way down if they're in the street. That's all worked out on the front end. And the cost of that is calculated on the front end so that we know the amount of the bond that we hold or that we have to make sure that if something settles and that company won't come back and repair it, that the city can step in and do so themselves. So let me see. Those are some of the things, though, that are the larger pieces of the puzzle. Because of all that, our inspection fees are probably 3 or 4 times higher than they used to be. But the effort that we have to invest to do that is higher and costs more. And frankly, our old fees had not been, our old fees, to tell you the truth, was $30 for inspection. So when you have to go out and make 4 trips to inspect, you can see that financially that was a bad deal for the city. So we've tried to structure our fees to more accurately reflect the effort that we have to put into making sure that it's done properly.
Well, thank you. I think the city's done a very good job in trying to coordinate with the utility services that are under our streets. I know you check with them before you pave a new street, and this is just a continued extension of trying to improve the quality of our streets and have them kind of have a greater life expectancy. So
exactly. Hopefully, this will result in better, smoother streets that we don't have to turn around and pave the whole street as soon. So hopefully in the long run, it'll save the city quite a bit of money over time.
Very good. Any other questions to Mr. Carnahan?
I would just like to express my appreciation to the management and to Gary and Denny McFate for working on this. This has been kind of a pet project since I was campaigning one year and found 50 cuts in the Baffin Wood and Baffin Ridge area. For people who live in that area, they know that's a small area. There were 50 cuts in the road, and it takes a very nice road and makes it awful very quickly. Getting past that means that the city has to come out and spend money out of the general fund, which takes away from the other stuff that we can be spending money on for our community. And so, like Gary said, I think in the long haul it's going to save our community a lot of money, and our city will look a lot better. This whole idea of one trench going down the middle of a street that over time ends up sinking is just, I'm glad we're addressing it, so thank you.
Now, I had a resident in a neighborhood from about 3 years ago make comment and thank me for their street again, and but there was a problem in the area, and it had, I don't know, Gary, you might remember this, there was the water line, the connections to their homes there was some inferior connection, and it was leaking, and that was kind of discovered through some complaints they had, but they were scheduled to be paved.
Right.
And it was like So every house on that street got a new, like a little connector from the main line that would go into the line leading to their house. And had we paved it and then done that, we would have been the culprits of putting in about 15 or 20 cuts in our own newly paved street. So,
Right.
so we have to watch out for that ourselves. And so they still have a nice street with no cuts versus
Excellent.
a nice street with 15 cuts. So thank you for
That's what we
and
wanna
your
do.
staff for all your efforts
Yes,
there.
sir.
And the public appreciates that, because they see it every day. It just
Good.
kind of digs away that cut, and it all of a sudden becomes a problem. So
Mayor, you make a good point. For those that are watching and those in the audience, we will hold our own utility as accountable as we do any other utility. So this will be citywide, whether you're part of our water or wastewater departments or one of the other private entities that do work within the right of way. We will hold ourselves just as accountable as we do any other. So.
what Bill's saying there, the standard that Gary outlined for repair and the types of cuts, we'll subscribe to ourselves.
That's correct.
Exactly.
And so we're not forcing other utilities to do something that we're not going to do to ourselves. So thank you.
True. Thank you all.
All right. I think we've done a pretty good job exploring that.
Mayor, the title to this ordinance does indicate that there's an emergency clause, and I believe it is staff's intent to have an emergency clause associated with this ordinance. There is not one present, and I'll take sole responsibility for that. So I would ask that there be a motion to amend to include Section 5, which would read, "This ordinance being necessary to preserve the health, safety, and welfare of the environs of the city. An emergency is hereby declared to exist and therefore shall be in full force and effect upon the passage of same."
So you need a motion to that
Need a
effect?
motion, need a motion to amend to that effect.
Director Foley did a good motion again, and Director Garcia seconded the motion.
You could vote on the motion to amend.
So we can vote on the motion to amend. Do we just voice vote?
Yeah.
Voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Amendment is approved. Now we need to approve the motion as amended.
Yes.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Director Jones,
Second.
Seconded.
You're already there.
We're already there.
Motion's on the floor as amended.
As amended. Call the roll.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Mayor, at this time, I'll need to read the emergency clause
Please.
in its entirety. And I hand-wrote this as y'all were talking, so hopefully I'll read it the same way that the motion read. This ordinance being necessary to preserve the health, safety, and welfare of the environs of the city, an emergency is hereby declared to exist and therefore shall be in full force and effect upon the passage of same. That concludes the reading of the emergency clause. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt the emergency clause.
So moved.
Second.
Director Jones, seconded by Director Davidson. Roll call?
Foley.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Emergency clause is approved.
Thank you.
That concludes the business activities of this evening. We're now to the point of where we have Board of Directors comments. Any director comments? Director Garcia.
I wanted to pass along kudos to City Manager Bill Burrow. I heard from residents on Robinwood, and they were complimenting on quick response to concerns there. And these are some of our newly annexed residents, and they were expressing their happiness about being in the city and your quick response to issues. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Director Foley.
Thank you, Mayor. I have two comments. One is my oldest son has brought his family back to Hot Springs, which gives me the great opportunity to be with my grandsons. And I have partaken of some of the city's parks, which are just outstanding. I probably have had the opportunity, but I've never done it. And I can tell you, Energy Park and Family Park are two outstanding parks. They're large, they're clean, they're well kept up. everything out there, the equipment is great. It was just, those are more kudos to Jean Wallace for her fine work over 22 years. Was it 22 years? I've never been able to hold a job that long. Okay. Anyway, the other thing is, I did not make the last board meeting, so I didn't have an opportunity to comment on a major issue that I've been interested in is the water plan. And the city water master plan, I did read it from cover to cover, is outstanding. It is just outstanding. So for anybody who's trying to understand where we're going, why we're putting storage tanks somewhere, why we're adding lines somewhere for fire protection, that plan addresses all of it, and yet it's still flexible enough to fit into the city's ability to pay for it, too. So I just, I know it can be dry for most people, but since that's been the heart of my effort here, I found it very intriguing, so I would encourage people to read it. Thank you.
Very good. Any other comments? I have a shout out to City Attorney Brian Albright. I've been working with him on one citizen concern over the last week, and he went above and beyond, I think, perhaps what most people would do, and dug as deep as he needed to dig to find the answers. So I appreciate that extra effort, Brian, and certainly the citizen is very appreciative as well. So, Director Jones, do you have anything to offer?
Mayor, I move that we adjourn for the night.
All right, we got a motion by Director Jones, seconded by
Second.
Director Clark. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody who says nay will be sitting in the dark in
He'll
about 3
stay
minutes.
here.
We are adjourned. Thank you.